Today on Parker's Reefs, I'm going to give you an overview of all of the Aquaforest dry foods that I feed my fish and my corals. We're going to go over the consistency, the size, how much my fish like them, and I guess ultimately how much I like them. Okay, so let's have a look at the range. I've got the Aquaforest Pro Feed Small, the Aquaforest Marine Mix Large, the Aquaforest Omega Krill, the Aquaforest Tiny Fish Feed, the Aquaforest Calendai Clip. Someone's going to tell me I pronounced that wrong, but that's how I pronounce it. The Aquaforest Veggie Clip, Aquaforest Growth Boost, which is like an amino acid, Aquaforest Rico Food, obviously for your recordias, and Aquaforest Power Food, which is just a bit of a general feed for SPS and LPS. Okay, so up first we're going to be doing the Aquaforest Pro Feed S, or small. These are a soft pellet. They're fairly moist. Even though they're called small pellets, I'd say they're small to medium. And I find them quite good, even though I don't have any Antheas anymore. I find them quite good as a general feed. You can see they in the video here that they sink quite quickly. I love a pellet that sinks fairly quickly. I don't like pellets that sit on the surface and go into the overflow. So I must admit, I've turned the flow pump off here, but I rarely do that. I normally just chuck some pellets in as I go. You can see here I also feed them to my clown harem tank, and these guys go bonkers for them. They actually stick their head out of the water for them. As soon as they see me get that jar, they come rushing over. So it's a pellet that probably gets used the most across my tanks, which is ironic because it's specifically for Antheas, and I don't have any Antheas, but my clownfish in particular really like it. You can see the little lemon peel angel in there is not afraid to grab some either. So yeah, I find this to be a really good all-round pellet. Okay, next up in the list is the Aquaforest Marine Mix Large. You can see it's a considerably bigger pellet. It's meant to be a bit of an all-rounder again, but being a larger pellet, it's not going to be probably targeted for some of the smaller fish. And I've got a couple of small fish in here. I've only got 4 fish in total in this soft coral tank. I've got obviously the pair of clowns and the dotty back and the bicolor blenny, but despite 2 of them being quite small, all 4 fish go pretty hard at these, and they're a quick sinking, soft, slightly moist pellet. So another one I like. Okay, next in the lineup is the Aquaforest Omega Krill. This is a small but a dry pellet, and I find it doesn't sink like the others. It will sit on the surface. So when feeding this, it is important to either use a feeding ring or make sure your flow pumps are turned off. You'll see it sort of hangs on the surface for a fair while. That being said, it's meant for carnivorous fish, and my clowns go fairly crazy for it. Don't forget, this is the 3rd food I've put in the last couple of minutes, and my clowns are still going hard at it. So it's a popular one with the fish, but maybe not quite as popular with me. Just got to make sure you've got your flow pumps turned off and give this pellet plenty of time to get down the water column. Okay, next up is the Aquaforest Tiny Fish Feed. And probably no surprise to anyone, this one's a really, really small pellet. It says on the container that it's approximately 1 millimeter in size. I'd hazard a guess that it's even smaller than that. It's obviously specifically meant for fish that have quite small mouths. That being said, obviously any fish that can eat it will enjoy it, but it's another one of these dry pellets that does sit on the surface. So because it's so small, it can be quite handy for automatic fish feeders. But again, I'd make sure you got a feeding ring if you're going to be dropping this in your tank, because particularly being such a small pellet, it will go over your weir and just fill up your filter socks or fill up your sump and create a fair nitrate phosphate problem. So make sure you use a feeding ring. But again, you can see even my clowns, who are now 4 foods in, are still pretty excited by this, and particularly my big female, she's knocking them back like it's the first food she's seen in a week. Okay, now we're up to the clip-on foods. First of all, the Aquaforest Calendai Clip. Again, someone will tell me how to pronounce that properly, but that's how I go with it. This is the first clip-on food that I've seen. It's actually like a meat-based, not a vegetable base. So they say that it's a nourishing feed on clip for carnivorous and ornamental fish. I find, as you can see, we've moved to my main display here because I've got a lot more fish in here, and my clownfish have eaten enough food for 1 day, probably enough food for 3 days. I find this to be one of the most appreciated clip-on foods I've come across. You can see my fox face is going absolutely burko for it, and it doesn't take long to create a bit of a feeding frenzy. In all honesty, normally when I feed this, I actually get more fish going at it. You can see my trigger pacing around there in the background. He gets a little bit shy when there's a camera at the tank. So normally it's only a few chomps from him, and this has been devoured. So I switched cameras to get a little bit of a longer view to see if I could catch the trigger smashing it, but he's still swimming around in the background there. But I can say that this is a very popular food. The clip size is quite large. I was worried that it would sort of just waste away and fall to the bottom of the tank before it could be consumed, but not the case. This is a popular feed in my tank, and all fish, including like the chromis and butterflies and stuff, will come and have a peck at it. So this one is one of my new favorites. All right, now before we get to the coral foods, we've got the Aquaforest Veggie clip, which is probably something more people are familiar with. Sorry about the focus here. The vegetable-based clip-on foods have been around for a little while from other manufacturers, but this one's just as popular, if not more popular. Again, it seems like a really large size, and that had me concerned clipping it in the tank. I was thinking it might be too much food source, but the fish are getting stuck into it, and you can see when the big fish chomp on it, little bits scatter off for the little fish, and that's why all those glass cardinals and chromis are hanging around. Again, they're a little bit shy because the camera's there, but this one is getting smashed down pretty quickly. I must admit, probably not as quick as the calendar clip, but in fairness, I did put this in straight after that. You can see the trigger is even warming up to the camera and coming over for a bit of a look, but still a bit scared to have a chomp. He's a big silk, that fish, but one of my favourites. Okay, now we're on to the powdered coral foods. So we've got the Aquaforest Growth Boost, the Rico food, and the Aquaforest Power food. Essentially, the recommendation for these is to dose all after lights out. Probably target, particularly with the Rico food and maybe the Power food, to target feed your particular corals that are going to like these foods. I must admit, I don't know whether I'm lazy or my tank's too big, or I don't know, I just can't be bothered. I find broadcast feeding works for me, and it could well be that I don't necessarily target feed these all that often. I normally bring these out when my nitrate or phosphate's getting a little bit low. Being a mixed reef, I don't like to get into that ultra low nutrient region, so rather than changing my filtration or something like that, all I'll do is I'll feed a bit heavier, and considering that I've put enough food in for my fish today, I thought we may as well use these coral foods and raise the nitrate and phosphate this way. So basically, I grab a cup of tank water and I add these three. I grab another little one which I haven't added in the lineup before, but the plankton elixir, which is one of my favorites, just sort of spurs on a bit of feeding response in the tank. So now I've mixed these four in together. Let's give it a bit of a stir. I find the Aquaforest Growth Boost, which is basically an amino acid, which I'm a big fan of. I love amino acids. I mostly use liquid-based ones from, say, Coral Essentials, but I'm more than happy to pump in many different types of amino acids, including 100% Reef-safe amino acids, which are popular here in Australia, and almost any brand, even Polyp Labs amino acid. So yeah, the amino acids are one of my favorites, and if I can add that into a little bit of food, which is going to spur on a bit of a feeding response from the corals, and add this at lights out, I'm a happy man. Anyway, I'm not going to show you me adding these to the tank after lights out because, it'll be lights out. There's not much to see. I basically pour it in front of a power head, but I'll move back across to a bit of footage of my fish just devouring one of those clips. And if you have any questions or you'd like to see more videos like this, be sure to give it a like and subscribe, and keep reefing, and thanks for watching. Cheers.